What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Talking Blue. I'm Matthew Mooney alongside Luke Langella, and we have a special guest, Ashton. We have had him on a couple times in the past, and he's been on a couple of vlogs when I've went to games. So, a lot has happened this offseason, obviously. Wanted to start out with Hard Knocks. Some news was revealed today. On draft day, the Colts tried to trade up with the Giants, where we would give them our sixth overall pick. They wanted to get Neighbors or Odunze. They were in the market for a receiver, and we would have gotten uh picks 15, 16, and a second for 2025. Personally, if the Giants made this trade, I would have been really mad. I thought this was a terrible trade idea for us. For them, not as much. I mean, there's no first for next year that they're putting in it. So I just think the trade wasn't worth it. Ashton, since you're the guest, give me your opinion on this trade first.
Look, I think if they were the Bears and they're trying to trade up to six, it's an entirely different story because where you'd be picking, you'd still feel confident enough about getting a receiver. I think the Giants really had their mind set on a receiver, right? In Neighbors after the failed trade up attempt. And I just think, like Shane said, it was too much to go back 9 spots to 15. And when you look at the draft, they weren't going to get any big playmaker if they went back. Their Bowers is off the board. Neighbors would have been off, and Adunze would have been off. And I think ultimately the Giants made the correct move, not trading back. I don't really think they would have been very happy with it afterwards if they did.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Luke, can I give me your opinion on this trade?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good move, and I wanted to dive a little bit into particulars on why sticking and picking Neighbors was a good idea. Last time Giants had a 1,000-yard receiver 6 seasons ago with OBJ, 1,052 yards. Neighbors 2 out of 3 seasons had 1,000 yards, 2 out of 3 seasons as a starter. Last year, 1,500 yards. Last time the Giants had a receiver with 10+ touchdowns 8 seasons ago, also OBJ. Talk about the two problems. Giants could not get teams on deep plays last year. They struggled that for years now, and we could not score in the red zone. Neighbors 14 touchdowns last year. So what does that say? That says he could score in the red zone, he could score in the deep plays, and that's why they had to go Neighbors. I mean, you sit back to 15 or 16, you're not getting a receiver. You're just not going to get a receiver. You'd probably be looking into corner or lineman there, which completely would change just the whole way the draft would have went. They needed to get a guy that could put up 1,000 yards. Darius Slayton had 770 yards. That's the closest the Giants have came now in 6 seasons to 1,000 yards. So the Giants needed an 1,000-yard receiver that could put a 10+ touchdown season together. That's why Malik Neighbors was the right call and staying where they were.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I know a lot of people wanted the Giants to trade up for a quarterback. There was a rumor recently that the Giants were going to trade to New England 2 firsts, this year's first or next year's first, and a second round pick either this year, next year for the third overall pick. I mean, listen, I've talked about the potential of the Giants getting a quarterback on this show. I'm sure a lot of you guys watching this episode right now wanted a quarterback. I'm happy we didn't because honestly, we didn't have like a set playmaker making receiver. And I think the smart thing to do was definitely draft a receiver this year. For example, Malik Neighbors. And assuming Daniel Jones sucks this year, hopefully not. And the entire world knows we're going to draft a quarterback. There's no question about it. Um, I definitely think this was it. It had to be done this way because now, if we do have to take a quarterback, he'll be put into what should be a good position. And if we make a move in next free agency, which we're not even going to think about just yet, but if we do go out and get a receiver, which I find pretty hard to imagine having Neighbors, Hyatt, and Wandale, I don't see the need for another receiver. So, Ashton, do you think the Giants made the right move here with taking a receiver over a quarterback?
Absolutely. Luke hit it on the head, right? We haven't had a big time playmaker since Odell Beckham Jr. And that's something we've really been striving for. And I think that's another reason you couldn't get rid of Jones, right? Not only is the big contract, but I think the guy has never really been given a fair shot, right? He's never had a top O line. He's never had that true number one receiver since coming into the league. And you tried it with Kenny Galladay and you failed. Um, but that's something that they absolutely needed was to get a receiver. And I also think that they needed a tight end. And they addressed that in the fourth with Theo Johnson. And you want to talk about red zone threats. I think that kid's going to be a red zone threat and even a deep play threat. I really like him. Giants, the last good tight end I can remember, receiving wise that we've had was Evan Ingram, and before Evan Ingram, Jeremy Shockey. So it's been really sparse there at that position.
Yeah, but
I think going
even Evan Ingram, I mean, the guy couldn't hold on to the football, couldn't catch football, and he fumbled a ton, and he wasn't a true tight end. The problem with him is he couldn't block, and that was a problem we saw all year. He was a receiver, he wasn't a tight end. Then we see Bellinger. Bellinger had great rookie year last year. Bellinger couldn't block either. That was the main thing. There's rumors that people are pretty confident Bellinger won't win the starting spot, even without before Theo Johnson. They were saying Lawrence Cager, receiving tight end, because they just said Bellinger cannot block. Obviously, he's a decent guy in the red zone, but Theo Johnson's going to be better than him. Lawrence Cager to complement them. And you made a good point. Giants need a red zone tight end. I think Lawrence Cager and Theo Johnson are very good in this spot. You know, Theo Johnson at Penn State, you look at his stats, not a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns. So he was a big red zone guy where the Giants struggle the most. He's going to be big for them. Lawrence Cager, we've seen flashes from him all the time. When he's on the field, he scores touchdowns. That's you can look into his starts when he's been elevated from the practice squad. He's find ways into the end zone. So I do really like that tight end point because I think tight end could be a big point of us winning 6 games to winning 10 games this year because of that fact of us last year not producing the red zone when the games counted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I
definitely
mean, you look at Theo Johnson too, right? You mentioned the touchdowns. Another thing you got to mention is how many yards per catch he put up. He put up about 14 yards per catch. I mean, averaging over a first down every time he catches the ball, and he's reliable, whether single coverage, double coverage, it didn't really matter. So that's something that, again, they tried to get with Darren Waller. It failed. But hopefully it doesn't fail this time.
And his speed. They
Mhm.
talked about it in Hard Knocks.
Sneaky.
For his size, his speed is absolutely insane for the size he is. So that's going to be exciting. Obviously, he's showing that he can be more than just a red zone tight end. And I'd really like to see him use at that because he has that great speed. See him use down the middle of the field, let him run with the football, and we'll see that in 1 week away, and that's going to lead to our next point of training camp into preseason, which we're starting 1 week from tomorrow. The Giants open up against Detroit to start the season, which is great. I know Matt, Ashton, and I, we've all been waiting, really excited to see this team back on the field after a very disappointing season last year. So, Matt, I want you to talk about preseason expectations and tell them a little bit about what you'll be doing for the preseason games.
Yeah, I'm excited for the season to start. Obviously, after you have a disappointing year in any sport, you're ready to come back the next year and have a kind of revenge tour the next year and like try to be a lot better than like how the last year turned out. Obviously, we expected the Giants to be a playoff team going into last year, and they failed miserably. We're not even close to meeting expectations. So I think the Giants got to do everything they can every week, practice extra hard, and just go all in. Do everything it takes to win every game, every week. Just be prepared. I'm excited. I'll be at the first preseason game versus the Lions, and as of right now, I'll be going versus the Jets as well. So I'm gonna try to get some videos for you guys. Like I'm not gonna be posting any more vlogs on the channel. I think it's just easier for me to just post shorts on like Reels and TikTok stuff on TikTok. I think it would be easier that way. I'm expecting an 8-9 season from the Giants. Like a lot of people are saying we're gonna be 4-13, 5-12. Some people even saying 3-14. Some people think we're gonna be the worst team in the NFL. Listen, I don't see that honestly. Like the Giants, and aside from losing Saquon, have gotten a decent amount better. Look at the offensive side of the ball. They now have what looks like a top 15 offensive line potentially. They now have Malik Neighbors on the outside as a receiver. You have Jalen Hyatt, who I think is gonna really break out this year, and Wandale, who has a lot of potential as a receiver. Also, having Theo Johnson as your tight end is gonna be really helpful. Like we talked about, he's an athletic freak. He's really big. He's fast. He's gonna be a red zone threat, which the Giants have been needing for a while. I'm very confident about that. Now the defensive side of the ball, the defense played well last year, except for the beginning of the year. By week 6, the defense looked set. Obviously, the big addition is us trading for Brian Burns and not really giving up much. I think the Giants have what is now a top 5 or possibly even top 3 defensive line in football with Kayvon Thibodeau.
Matt, I would definitely say top 3 defensive line in football.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, easily. You got what most people would say is like one of the best linebacker cores in all of football. You got Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden, a great 1-2 punch there. Secondary has some question marks. Obviously, Deonte Banks is going to be our number one corner this year. We don't know who the
And
second corner is, either McLeod, Phillips, or
the
Flott.
Clouds look very good in camp in the slot. At slot corner right now. He's looking to be the slot. And Andrew Phillips as well has looked decent as well. But Matt, when you're talking about secondary, we talked about kind of Mike McFadden, McCarricky, Burns, Thibodeau. Don't forget about Jason Pinnock. I mean, he had a great year last year. Dane Belton as well, coming back, he's always found a way to get turnovers. And I found it interesting what you say. Defense didn't play well to week 6, but we didn't play complimentary football. I mean, our offense in games like the first game against Dallas, our offense they were giving up points. It wasn't even our defense. The offense we were the kick six, the fumble, the interception. I mean, that game came down to the offense, to be honest. And that was the story last year. The Giants need to play complimentary football. Their defense, I felt like, was solid all year, Matt. I'd make that argument that we had a very solid defense last year.
Yeah, I even see some people saying that like we have one of the worst defenses in the league. And I'm telling you right now, those people who are saying that do not know football. This defense is not bad at all. It gets overlooked because the Giants played like crap this year, had a 6-11 record. I mean, crappy teams have good defenses or could have good defense at the very least.
I mean, people look at base stats on analyzing defenses, and I think that's the big problem in it. I mean, like you said, right? Top 3 D line. You have a guy 11 and a half sacks last year in Kayvon Thibodeau. 8 sacks out of Brian Burns, and then whatever you got out of Dexter Lawrence, but that's easily over 25 sacks between 3 linemen, and you're going to have a 4th lineman out there, right? And then when you brought up defensive backs, I was smiling ear to ear when you mentioned Pinnock and Belton, because those are 2 guys that I absolutely love. Belton, like you said, turnover machine. And I think you're going to see that a lot this year. And I think Newbin, too, is going to be I think it's going to be a blessing in disguise that Kool-Aid McKinstry was gone and that Kamari Lassiter was gone, because I think Tyler Newbin has the potential to be a better safety than even Xavier McKinney in 2 years' time.
I think Tyler Newbin brings a better presence in the run game than Xavier did.
Mm-hmm.
Xavier had a lot of tackles, but I think that Tyler Newman's a little thicker, and I think he'll be a better playing down. Kind of reminds me a bit of Jamal Adams watching his film. Young Jamal Adams, not a recent Jamal Adams, obviously, but a young Jamal Adams. He kind of reminds me, turnover machine. You're right, Matt. You're right, Ashton. He's going to be exciting to watch. And Matt said 8 and 9, but the more I watch this team in training camp, and any team could say this, let's be honest, it's the NFL. Great players are on every roster. Again, I'm going to say it. This team could win 9, 10, 11, 12 games if they stay healthy.
Absolutely.
Anyone could say that. Any team could say that, but I'm really confident with this Giants roster that if we stay healthy, we have a very good team, our receiver core. I love what we got going on in our running back room. It's a little mishmash, but I think it's good. Our quarterback, our offensive line looks like a really decent offensive line. Our defensive line's top tier. Our secondary's okay, but it's a lot of young talent. And then we have probably one of the best linebacker duos in the league. So I look at it, 8 and 9. I mean, 8 and 9 if things don't go great. I think if things go the way they should, this team should be a 10, 11 win team looking at a wild card spot in the playoffs. If things go well, they don't have to go excellent. Not horrible, but if they go well, they'll be a playoff team this year.
Absolutely. And I agree. And I think that the big part of it's going to come down to Daniel Jones, right? And anyone knows I'm a huge advocate for Daniel Jones. I don't think he's really been done right by the franchise until Daboll and Schoen came in. And I think, look, this is his year. This is to make or break year. If he sucks this year, then, you're going to get a quarterback. And I really think that this upcoming quarterback class is going to be a lot better than the quarterback class that just came out in 2024. But the big things I'm saying is, Jones is missing throws, right? Or, he's looking a little bit shaky. What you have to remember here is he's recovering from a torn ACL, right? This is about a 7-8 month process to recovery. It's the first time he's really going back into these motions with pads, without pads, against a defense, without a defense, that he's really doing these types of motions. So it's going to come with ups and downs, and any quarterback who's been injured is going to have those ups and downs. I think the big part for him is just regaining the confidence, and I think he needs to tune the media out. And I think that's the big problem he's had is he lets the media get to him. You're in a big market like New York, the media is going to try to get in your head, and I think if he can kind of shift away from that and kind of shift it out of his brain, then I think we can get Daniel Jones that we got in 2022 times that by two. And I think that's
Yeah,
the kind of player we can get.
and he needs to embrace his name that the media actually gifted him. He needs to be Vanilla Vic this year. With the loss of Saquon Barkley, he needs to be in a running. He needs to pick up the running game. I look at our running back room. I said, I like what we got going there, but I don't expect insane amount of production. I do expect more production out of receiver core, but that's going to mean Daniel Jones is going to have to use his legs. Just like in 2022, he needs to play the way he played in that 2022 playoff game against the Minnesota Vikings, the way he plays the Minnesota Vikings week 1. I need to see him throw for 300, run for 100. He needs to be able to use his legs, not be scared to use them, because he is one of the fastest quarterbacks in the league, if not the fastest, when he decides to actually run the damn ball. And to win, the difference between the Giants, again, being the playoff team and being a 6 or 7 win team, it's going to come down to his legs, how he could use them effectively or ineffectively. Matt, what's your thought on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I think if Daniel Jones can run the ball well this year, I think that'll be huge, especially after losing Saquon. He's got to really prove it this year. I think now he's got Neighbors, he's got Hyatt, Wandale. I think he's got a better offensive line. I think it can't be worse. Like it's got to be at the very least top 15 in the league. But I think it should give him enough time to block to throw the ball away. And I think the Giants have to have at least 8 wins this year. And I think it's very manageable to schedule, possibly even 10 or 11 if we're lucky. Another thing is with the running back room. Heard a rumor recently. I actually talked about this recently as a recent episode. I'll put a video of that in the link description down below. The Giants potentially trading for Najee Harris, and it would only cost at most a third or a fourth round pick. If the Giants somehow do that, let's say the Giants do it, I think that really improves our offense a lot. Najee is not an injury prone running back. He has not missed a single game due to injury, and he's had at least 1,000 yards every year. And I think bringing him in would create serious depth with Singletary and Tyrone Tracy. I think that would be the best top 3 running back core in the league. Ashton, give me your thoughts on that, and then I'll go to Luke.
I mean, look, he's a 1,000-yard rusher, like you said. The only problem I really have on it is he's a guy that's looking for an extension, and I don't really think the Giants can give him that. I think he's going to cost, on a salary wise, I think we're about 5-6 million, and we're a team here that has about 10 million right now in cap space, and I think Schoen, God forbid something happens, right, and somebody gets injured. We need that money for depth. I mean, look, if we get Najee and we give up a third, I'm not going to complain because we get a 1,000-yard rusher. But I really do believe Devin Singletary can be our guy because we've seen it in Houston and we've seen it in Buffalo. When he's been a number 2 running back, he can still get 750 yards and still rush for an average of 4.3 yards a carry with break tackle ability. And him and Tyrone Tracy in the pass game could be unbelievable. I mean, Tracy was a former receiver before he became running back. Mm-hmm. If we got Najee, like I said, I wouldn't be severely disappointed, but I just really don't see the need for it right now. Maybe week 5, things change, but as of right now, I don't really think that's the number 1 need for it.
Yeah, give me your thoughts on that, Luke.
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree. I think Najee is the piece that we need. I look at Devin Singletary and I look at him. He was the guy in Buffalo. He was the starting running back. Couldn't run for 1,000 yards. That worries me a bit when you're going from a guy Saquon for the last few seasons. He's ran for 1,000 almost every year with scrimmage yards last year, obviously. And then I look at receiving back. I like Tyrone Tracy. I think he could be a serious receiving back, obviously as a receiver. Let's not forget about Dante Turbo Miller. He's been lighting it up in training camp. You see his name all over with his speed downfield as a receiving running back. Another guy I'd like to see in there running some plays, screen passes, getting him the ball. But I question Singletary's ability to actually be able to run for that 1,000 yards. And when you bring in a guy like Najee, there's 2 things that I look at that makes him a really good running back: his power, and then also you don't think of him as a receiving back, but he is one of those guys on screen passes. You give him the ball in space, he's going to truck someone and he is going to level them. He has the ability to hurdle them. We've seen him do it to the Giants. We've seen him do it in college. So I would think that, you have Najee, and then Singletary is more your change of pace back, and then you package out Tyrone Tracy and Dante Miller kind of in there too, and then you get two receiving backs, two running backs, and you make packages, which is something that was interesting to see what's shown in Dable a lot last year. We had certain packages, are not necessarily ones and twos, but just different guys out there, which I feel like we hadn't seen as much in the past. We just saw our main guys go out there. While last year, Dable and Schoen, last 2 years, really, they've really mixed it up with certain sets and certain situations. So I think with this running back room, the versatility that's in it, maybe lack of talent, but a lot of versatility between power and receiving. You're going to see a lot of different packages here with Najee or without Najee, just with the guys we have here. There's going to be a lot of different packages, especially with receivers too. We talked about Hyatt, Slayton, and Malik Neighbors, and Wandell, and then we didn't really talk about Hodgins. We didn't really talk about as much as Hodgins or as much as Allen Robinson. Those guys are probably going to make the roster as well. So I assume they will have their package and role as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think Allen Robinson, former 1,000-yard receiver, he's still got a little bit of upside. He could possibly still make the Giants roster, if he performs well in the preseason. Isaiah Hodgins is another guy we got to look at. Obviously, 2022, we picked him up off waivers midseason, and he lit it up. He was basically what we expected Kenny Galladay to be in a short amount of time.
He sparked us to the playoffs, Matt.
Yes, and the playoffs as well. He was unbelievable. He messed up his ankle super badly and was able to play through it. How he played was just unbelievable if you watch the game.
Yeah, I think you got Isaiah Hodgins there for kind of your red zone receiver. Great in the red zone. Last year, minimal playing time. I mean, we didn't even get this guy the ball that much, but 4 receiving touchdowns. He was electrifying in the red zone area, and some clutch touchdowns. Games like Green Bay and Arizona, some very clutch touchdowns. Patriots as well. He's been the difference maker these last 2 seasons. He seems when we need a touchdown in the red zone, he finds a way to get into the end zone. And I mean, Matt, Ashton, I know we're all really excited. It's great to say that football starts tomorrow night. First preseason game, August 1st tomorrow. Finally, football is back. Giants open it up in a week. And it's been a long offseason. It's always tough when there's no playoffs and you only win 6 games. It's so long. While last year we actually got to play deep into the winter. Now it was long and lengthy. We kind of knew from the start we weren't going to make the playoffs after losing 40-0. And now it's a new start, a fresh start on the season, and it really all starts tomorrow with the NFL season. And then a week later, we get to see the Giants back on home at MetLife. And I know Matt and Ashton, I know you guys are probably getting a lot of content at the game. I definitely pump out some content. I expect to be at all Giants home games, especially the starting opening game against Minnesota. So I'll be getting content for that. But I think we all could look forward to Thursday next week and seeing some content from Matt and Ashton taking some content from the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you touched on preseason next week, and it's football. So, I mean, I'm excited. I don't care whether you're seeing an 8th string quarterback or you're seeing your 1st string quarterback. Football is football. And I think the Giants have a lot to look forward to, and I think the fans have a lot to look forward to. I mean, I looked at the roster just a little bit today, and you have guys like Dante Miller, who you mentioned. I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to kind of see how he meshes in. Can he use his speed, but also kind of transform into a guy who can break tackles as well? Moasa, who I want to see how he fits, into a linebacker core. Do we maybe move him as an edge guy? Offensive lineup. I mean, we signed Greg Van Roten a week ago, and he had his best season ever last season on 626 pass blocking snaps. He allowed only 5 sacks, 21 total pressures. And the big thing, right, we know this is a Giants team that has had a lot of troubles with penalties, and then it screwed us. He had 0 penalties last year. He committed not 1 penalty, and he had the 7th highest overall and pass blocking grades among all guards last season. I think it was a great pickup. So I think there's a lot to look forward to here in this preseason, and football's back. So
Yeah. I'm excited. Yeah, football is finally back. It's been a long off season. Obviously, we're just waiting for it to come back. Fall is honestly the best time of year for sports. I think football starts, hockey starts, basketball starts up.
Baseball playoffs.
Yep.
Yeah.
MLB playoffs.
College football. Yeah. Fall is
football.
the best season to be a sports fan, easily.
Yeah. I mean, I'm excited for college football, baby. We're seeing Sun Devils every week. So
Yeah.
Arizona State. I think they're going to have some good players coming out of the draft this year. Just looking overall at their overall roster. But college football is great because that's the future of your potential NFL team. And I think that's the great part about it is you get to see the future of your franchise potential.
I know. It's great. Being an Oregon fan, I'm really excited for what we have going on this season. I can't wait to watch Dylan Gabriel this year. I hear he could win the Heisman. I hope he does, but I don't know I'm not too knowledgeable about college football to judge this, but I'm really excited to watch Oregon this year. I think could be a Final Four team in the playoffs at the very least. So I think this is going to be a really exciting year to watch, possibly a natty, which I don't know about, but the recruiting class has been nothing but great. So I'm really excited to see the next few years for Oregon.
Jalen Milroe is going to win the Heisman.
We'll see. I could see that.
Can't believe it, Arizona State. Come on.
And then the Giants are going to pick Jalen Milroe in the draft, and we're going to get a resurgence. I would love that, a little mobile quarterback. But yeah, I think that's everything from us, Matt. Do you want to? I think that's all from me. And go Giants, Matt.
Giants.
Yeah, that's really it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, share this video with a few friends. And yeah, I'll see you guys later. Let's go Giants.